I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Another day of Spec Corvette racing action right here on the National Racing Network. Oh, we are excited for this one. Quite frankly, what was shaping up to be such a fantastic race yesterday. Unfortunately, ending up under the caution flag. Welcome back, though, once again, to the Spec Corvette Series presented by Nankang Tires here from Virginia International Raceway. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth, as always, by Mr. James Watson. Also, West Region Director John Wynn is here with us. And, John, we're going to kick off the show and come to you because we got the onboard footage of Marino Reyes having his issue yesterday, and this is about one of the worst places you could have an engine blow up, right through the snake. And it was crazy.
Yeah, this was absolutely nuts. Marino did a great job saving the car. He was going 100 plus miles an hour. Just look at it there. Blows out the engine, comes out of the hood vent, and boom, fire, spin. And luckily, there was no tire barriers there, so he was able to get the car under control and roll it backwards. And luckily he did that because of the oil slick. Some of the cars you can see Cecil Stevens come in right after the fact right there because he went off track. So he was able to roll the car backwards out of the way. So that was a pretty spectacular engine explosion that he had there. That car had 93,000 miles on it and several years of track events. The engine was tired. He knew it was tired. He was going to get another couple races out of it. But unfortunately, it gave up the ghost. But in doing so, just before he blew that engine up, he ran 0.2 seconds off of the lap record. And this is his first time on this track. So Marino, the hot shoe down in Florida, got within 0.2 of the lap record and was going to be a contender in this race. But unfortunately, with that engine failure there, he's taken out of the race. But he's in great spirits, and the car's okay. He's okay, and he's going to fix it for another day. So I'm excited to have him come out, and he did really well for his first weekend racing at VIR, and he'll be back for another race soon.
Yeah, Marino actually would have gridded third today. Qualifying grid, the grid for today's race is based on where the drivers qualified or their best lap, I should say, across all of the sessions for the weekend. And Marino would have been P3 on the grid, as we'll bring up the grid for today's race. And there we go. Starting on the pole for today's race will be Middletown, Maryland's Charlie Abel with a lap time of 2:04.251. I believe within a tenth of a second of the all-time Spec Corvette track record here at VIR. Dave Sanders, 18 thousandths of a second back. It is going to be a really, really quick front row. Second row, Ken Mantovani, he was incredible to watch on the start yesterday, diving way up the inside of the racetrack on the green flag, only 7/10 back. He's got another just really, really great hot rod underneath of him. To his outside will be the 17 of Cecil Stevens out of Tampa, Florida. Don't let the gap times fool you, because a lot of these sessions were set in a variety of wet to damp-ish kind of conditions. If you didn't get a great lap in the dry, you're kind of just out of luck in terms of where the starting grid was. But row number 3 will have Olathe, Kansas, Larry Brady. Got a good look out of Larry's car here, actually. Let's take a look, and we'll bring up Larry Brady's machine out of the front of his car. And lining up to his outside, I believe we have a camera in this one as well. It will be the 53 of Frank Reinhardt. Row number 4 on the grid will be Dave Clemens out of Roanoke, Virginia. Lining up to his outside, the 63 of Aston, Pennsylvania's Jeff Pascal. final row of the grid, West Melbourne, Florida's James Davidson, and unfortunately, Miami, Florida's Marino Reyes will not start due to that engine grenading in a very, very bigly way yesterday. And James, let's go back to talking about that a little bit, because we saw incredible car control, but we also saw it not just out of Marino, but out of the other drivers as well. The Snake is so incredibly fast, and it's a lot to control the car through there, period, let alone when you're driving through somebody else's oil.
Yeah, we saw many cars go off yesterday, but no one actually really crashed. They just went off on the grass. They took a real life 1X, but the most important thing is no damage. So it just shows you the talent level we got in this series, because making those saves aren't for the faint of heart. So awesome driving by everyone on the track to avoid any further carnage.
Yeah, just so much going on in that situation. And like we said, unfortunately, that put us under a yellow flag that would eventually end the race. That engine grenading with only about 6 minutes into the session. The rest, the other 14 minutes or so, was spent under the yellow flag while they were doing track cleanup. Today's race is scheduled for 35 minutes, or I believe 15 laps is the distance that we're looking on that one, as the group right ahead of our Spec Corvettes has just gone checkered flag. So our guys will be out on the racetrack here in just a few minutes. But when you talk about the difference between a 20-minute race and a 35-minute race, John, we start to look towards things that are potentially consumables, whether it's the Nankang tires. They've gotten a lot of wear on them this weekend, your Willwood brakes, and a variety of things that have been in maybe set up for wet conditions, and I would say today kind of looks wet-ish.
Yeah, these guys, with their setups in the wet, we battled this last race at West in the West region at Buttonwillow, and really the only thing these guys change in the wet is maybe they might loosen a sway bar up or something like that. But setup wise, these cars are pretty simple. We keep them pretty much the same. And again, running the Nankang tire as a street tire, we don't have to make switches or anything like that. But yeah, in the dry, these guys are going to have to manage their tires, manage their brakes. But this group of guys has a ton of racing experience. You got Dave Sanders in racing since, I don't know, '07, and taking national titles, Charlie Abel, Frank, and all these guys have been racing a long time. So they know what they're up against. It looks like a fairly, weather-wise, it looks like 68 degrees, and 80, the humidity is a little high for California standards, so that's a little high, but it looks like they're going to have a decent weather for the day, nice and dry. And talking to Cecil earlier, he said the track is damp still from the morning, but it is drying out. So you can look at grid there. It looks pretty dry right now, but Annie put 2 tires off, and that's going to be a completely different story.
Well, yeah, James, to that point, the racing line has likely dried pretty significantly by this point. It's when you get that little bit off track, and having more cars on the track will help widen that groove out. It's when you're thinking about making a pass on somebody, that's when things get really sketchy, because you're heading into absolute no man's land.
Yeah, it's already hard enough to pass at times in this series, and especially on this track. Adding in the fact that you're going to have damp racetrack to worry about, making that pass even harder. It's going to show who's got the biggest confidence to pull off some of these passes and make them stick, especially with how anti-contact the Spec Corvette series is.
You know what? That's a great point that you make there, James. And John, you can speak to that a little bit. We saw some, we'll say, shenanigans on the start a little bit yesterday. That's something that I know that the Spec Corvette series does not like to see a ton of. They want to see all 4 tires on the racetrack. And, well, let's see. We're seeing some safety vehicles possibly heading out towards the racetrack as well here. So maybe a little bit of a delay. But when you start to talk about the aggressiveness of the racing, what we saw early in the race yesterday was a really tight battle between cars that were fairly evenly matched, but without the contact. And that's a big key to this Spec Corvette series racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a fine line, and I've dealt with both sides of the spectrum. We've gone so far to try to get contact down to a minimum, and we've achieved that. And then if you loosen it up at all, you're going to start having issues. And it really comes down usually to a couple people. Most of the guys in the series are really respectful, and we push that every race weekend. But you'll have guys come in here or there that race, and they they take it extremely seriously, which is great. But we just got to always remind ourselves in the drivers' meeting, the $10 trophy isn't worth wadding up your car or hurting somebody. So it's just a constant reminder, during these race weekends to make sure everybody keeps a level head and doesn't see the sea of red when you get out there, um, and take unnecessary risks. That's the biggest thing for me. Is there's a time to pass. If you're faster than the guy, you'll get around him without a doubt. It will happen. And just don't take the risk, the Hail Mary throws, so that you put everybody else at risk. And that's what we try to instill in everybody. And for the most part, it's worked out really well. So we just continuously push that. And if there's issues, we review them. If anybody has any problems, we look at the video, and then even after SCCA or NASA makes a call on an incident, if there is any beef whatsoever that one side or another is not satisfied with the outcome, then we take a third party to review the video and come up with the final solution, and then we try to share that with everybody so that once the call is made, all the bad blood is settled, and we move on so that there's no pent up aggression and whatnot. So trying to get that visually out to everybody is something that we strive for, and we can do a better job of it, of course. So, but the major things we try to get out there as best as possible.
Well, and one of the big things is you see on your screen here, there's multiple camera views on board here with Cecil Stevens. Two of these cameras are mandated by the Spec Corvette series. One looks out the front, one looks out the back, so that there is video evidence and video review of these race cars. That's a pretty big thing because it lets you kind of see where the driver was and what they were seeing in the moment. The driver's always going to say, I left them plenty of room. Well, no, look, we're looking out the front of the race car. We can see there wasn't plenty of room. There may have been enough room, but not plenty of room. There's a big difference in the two. But very cool. We also get to see a look here of Cecil behind the wheel of these things. And James, you got to drive one out in California about a year or so ago. There's a lot to these things. The drivers look like their hands are just so calm and settled most of the time. But you're feeling every bit of these 380 horsepower through your hands and through the seat of your pants.
Yeah, these things aren't the easiest to drive. Corvettes aren't exactly known for their handling. So you've got to be really conscientious of that and know that these things are going to rattle every filling you got, as we can see from the cameras.
One notable thing, I was looking at the lap times yesterday, and not only is Spec Corvette the biggest group of racers there, car count wise, but they're also the fastest ones there. Um, it was they're the top of the group. There's nobody faster. There might have been one or two cars there that are faster, but overall, running 204, 205 lap times on a street tire car, Nankang NS2R 200 treadwear, a true 200 treadwear tire, not one of these AO52 cheater 200s. These are true 200 treadwear tires. Just a simple suspension setup with Penske's, which have been great for us. Um, and the safety stuff and the reliability piece. Obviously, the engine went yesterday, but that's racing. You're not going to find one racing series that doesn't have engine failures in it. But like Marino was saying, he got a lot of life out of that thing. So, but yeah, it's truly impressive what these cars can do. And once you understand how to get them to handle and turn and put the power down and make them rotate with the power, that's when these cars really come to life. And the guys that have mastered it, like Mark and Josh, Marino, even Ken, Charlie, Dave, they are really fast in these cars. And we recently just put on our website a lap record page that we uploaded in there. And I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that that page is going to be getting so much traffic because not everybody can believe how fast these cars are for as basic as they are, and the tires that we're running and the no aerodynamics and the stock LS6 engines. So if you haven't seen it yet, if you know the crowd can go to www.speccorvette.com, and up top there's a results page which you can go to lap records or the points championship, and it'll pull down. We have like 25 tracks across the US that are running that have great lap times on them that you can kind of compare yourself to. So viewers out there, if you're looking to compare yourself, how fast am I really, and how modified my car is, and if you think you need to dump a ton of money into a car to make it go fast, check out the lap times first. See where you land versus where a spec Corvette is with a really damn good driver, and look at what you need to work on next. So, a 204 at VIR, fast. Like I said, look at all the lap times yesterday, and these are the fastest cars there of the weekend and the most numerous. So that's something to be said about these cars. It's a great setup.
I think a big testament to that is the cost effectiveness of the racing, because nothing in racing is cheap. There is no
No.
way to go racing on the cheap. Even if you're going to go, run a Crown Vic race in Indianapolis or Bradenton, Florida, you're still spending a bunch of money to safety up the car and turn it into a race car. But in terms of that cost comparison, I guess, it's a big deal that the Spec Corvette series is about the most cost-effective way you can go racing. You don't have to do a crazy ton to it. And it sounds like we're getting engines fired here. I'm hearing Cecil Stevens fire up. I'm seeing the camera shake from Charlie Abel's car, so we know that car's his machine's running. Larry Brady's car has fired up as well. So we should be getting ready to go racing here in just a minute. In fact, seeing the pace car getting itself out onto the racetrack. Got to thank everybody that's tuned in here on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. Ted McConaughey checking in saying, good afternoon, all. And Eric checking in as well. Go Charlie and Dave. Thank you all very much for tuning in. We appreciate you hanging out with us. If you want to know more about the Spec Corvette series, ask away. We can answer some of the questions here. And also, you can check out speccorvette.com. Full rulebook is there. Contact information for a variety of resources, both within the series and some of the series partners and sponsors. In fact, God, how about we do that one here? Let's, there we go. We'll get the sponsor logos up in the corner for you as well. So big thank you to everybody that helps make the Spec Corvette series happen on a week-to-week basis. And we've actually got an upcoming schedule here that we can show everybody. Lot of racing coming up. New Jersey Motorsports Park, next up on the schedule, Memorial Day weekend, May 25th and 26th. John, we're going to have a conversation about that. That's a little too close to home for the NRN crew not to make an appearance at the racetrack at. First weekend of June, we head off to the Sebring Club layout, Laguna Seca in the West region, June 8th and 9th. The East region in action again, June 29th and 30th up at Watkins Glen. And then a second visit, either Thunderbolt or Lightning. They're going to visit both in the East region, July 29th and 30th. But looking forward to seeing a whole lot coming up here. And one more driver just popping in here because he checks in late with us, and it makes me nervous every single time. But Dave Sanders' cameras are up and running now as well. So a variety of looks we're going to have for you here as cars are going to get ready to head off onto Virginia International Raceway. James, let's talk a little bit about this place. VIR opened in, well, let's see. It helps if I get the right one here. There we go. Alton, Virginia opened in 1957. 3.2 miles, 17 turns. Rest in peace, Oak Tree. That one kind of makes you sad. But so much flow and feel goes into this racetrack. Yes, you have the passing opportunities. You have a lot of speed. It's kind of just a perfect track for somebody to want to go out and rip around in a Corvette.
Yeah, it's got a little bit for everyone. You've got long straightaways. You've got long, free-flowing, multi-apex corners. You got tight corners you got to be aware of and nail the technicality of. We got a lot of elevation change and undulation that you've got to be aware of. It's just a phenomenal racing circuit.
Yeah, looking at the onboard from Marino yesterday, right before his engine grenaded, you could see how much speed was going through that. I guess you guys call it the snake. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable amount of speed and just on the just no better way to say it, on the hairs of your ass, just going through there and just really pushing it hard and tiptoeing left, right, and just speed, 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 and then hard braking coming to the next turn. That to me, I've never been on this track, so that to me was just really exciting to watch somebody like Marino just wheel the hell out of that car through that area, and it has to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a little bit of big time pucker factor Zulu when the engine grenades through there, that's for sure. As they get ready to roll out onto the racing surface, let's review yesterday's race results. And this obviously ending under the caution flag, but Ken Mantovani picking up the win over Dave Sanders and Charlie Abel up on the podium. Charlie, the defending winner of this East Coast Championship race. Cecil Stevens, and let's see. I'm sorry, that was the grid for yesterday's race, not our race results here. Let's see. Go back to our results from yesterday here. There it is. Charlie Abel, picking up the win in yesterday's race over Dave Sanders and Ken Mantovani. Larry Brady, Cecil Stevens completing the top 5. Frank Reinhardt, Jeff Pascal, Dave Clemens, and on back to James Davidson and then Marino finishing a couple of laps behind after that engine, did its thing in a very big way. But Charlie, Dave, and Ken were really putting on a show at the front of the field, and it's that kind of exciting thing to watch. James, we joke about your unintelligible screaming, but that's kind of the reaction, just the gut reaction to that is, oh my God, these guys can't possibly continue doing this.
Yeah, like you always get scared because you're like, okay, the other shoe's gonna drop. Obviously, you can rest easy that the other shoe isn't likely to drop in a Spec Corvette race, but you're just expecting some sort of fireworks when you have such an intense battle like that with as close as they were getting.
Yeah, and one of the things we heard today, John, was we're looking at a split grid for this one. So the Spec Corvettes will start separate from the rest of the field. Is that accurate in what we were hearing?
Yeah, that's correct. It's funny if you can go to Larry Brady's screen right now. It looks like they might have another delay, but he's he's texting on his phone right now, and I just texted him. It's like you're texting and driving, and now he's got it on his screen because he can see what we're doing. I just thought that was really funny because he pulled his gloves off for a second, and I started texting somebody. I said, I'm going to text him on grid, and he got it.
Going full Brad Keselowski.
That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When the race to the Porta-John is, that might be the exciting one to check out here. Let's see. We'll go on board with Charlie Abel as well because his car is shut off at the moment, so we can show you the camera. The T. Watson Racing Setups onboard camera. Thank you, everybody. And you'll see a lot of the sponsor names on these onboard cameras. Those are the drivers' sponsors that they have. They're nice enough to let us hang out in their office for a little bit, so we're going to show them a little bit of love here on the broadcast. But Charlie out of Middletown, Maryland, my goodness, that car was so incredibly strong yesterday. And in fact, it may have even been Charlie was the guy that we saw out on the grass here. Let's see. Let's pull the lower third back a second because Ted McConaughey is checking in the comments. Looks overcast, expecting some rain. I don't think we're expecting rain, at least not in big quantity or anything. I think we can hear actually Charlie even talking a little bit on his camera because everything is off. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it looks like I just got a text from Larry on grid saying that they're fixing some barrier right now, so it should be a couple minutes.
It's never good one, that you have a barrier repair that has to be done, because that means there was a car into it. So hope the driver or drivers that were involved are okay. But
Yeah,
this
well, you
also,
said Armco. I don't know what Armco is.
that's,
I'm
yes,
assuming it's a bear.
that's
Guardrails.
the
Oh,
guardrails.
guardrail. That's a fancy saying way of saying guardrail. Got it.
Yeah, I think that may have even sort of like the whole Kleenex is a tissue thing. Zamboni is an ice resurfacer. I think Armco may.
Jacuzzi.
Yeah, like I think that may have been the original manufacturers of those things. But yeah, to look at the question on weather, let me pull up. And unfortunately, we can't show it to you because that would get us into trouble with copyrights, and I don't feel like getting sued by whoever owns the Weather Channel at this point. But it looks like there's only about a 15% chance of rain until later this evening, and then it turns into like a 60% chance of rain. So as of now, very overcast, I should say. I can talk. It says slight chance of showers over the next 6 hours. So that's just adding one more thing to add to it. Is you're already in kind of a wait and hold on kind of moment for the drivers, and you're just kind of sitting there and you're in hurry up and wait mode. You get, and John, maybe you can talk about this a little bit. You get the call to the grid, get in your car, hurry up, everybody get to the grid now. And then you get there. And now you're going to sit and wait. And then they tell you, oh, we're going to have a barrier repair. We're going to have this, we're going to have that, a car laid oil or fluids or something. And now you just have to sit there and just sit. There's a lot that starts to go through your head in that moment.
Well, there's always just a lot of in a race weekend. There's always a lot of adrenaline going, lots of things going on. I'm generally the last person to the grid. Also, one thing that I try to do, and more veteran guys try to do, is they get everything ready early, and they get to grid early and just relax, because you get pent up, and then your last second there, and exactly what happens. You're like, oh god, now I'm gonna sit here for a while. It's just best to expect it's going to happen, and whatever happens. Just relax when you get there. It looks like we got some engines going now. I see the shaker hood on Charlie's car.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get you we will not be coming to Charlie Abel's camera all that much, because if you think this is a little wobbly and nausea-inducing, wait until the car gets rolling.
Still.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He has not moved yet. It looks like the front end loader is being pulled onto pit lane, though, so that's a good sign. I think Dave Sanders may be taking a nap, and that's not uncommon. I don't know how a race car driver does that.
I don't think he's taking it. I think he switched his camera off.
I think he just switched everything off. But he would not be the first driver that I've heard of. It's just you go to the grid, you get in the car, and you take a nap. It always amazes me. You see it every year at the Indy 500. Some driver is sitting in their car sleeping during back home again in Indiana.
If he's taking a nap, he's probably thinking about the Nankangs driving in the rain. That's what he's probably doing. He's visualizing that right now.
Yes, visualizing the art of racing in the rain on Nankang tires. Let's see. We'll swap over here and we'll take a look from the camera of Ken Manavani. That car is fired up, I believe. We can see some of the fans blowing and trying to get some airflow. James, what goes through your head in these moments? Because the racing that I'm used to talking with you about is of the iRacing variety, where everything just kind of happens fast. Everybody's done qualifying, and it just throws you back to pit lane, and you click the button, you join the grid. It's a lot different when you're getting that experience of sitting behind the wheel of a race car and the different thoughts and feelings that go through your head.
Yeah, it's a lot, to be honest. And it's never a good thing personally, because I tend to overthink a lot. Like, you don't want to let me think about things too much. So the more time I have to kind of focus up is kind of the worst, honestly. So for me, it's just about trying to distract myself from what's going to go on as much as I can, which seems very counterintuitive, but when you're the king of overthinking things as I am, it's a necessary thing for survival.
Well, there you go. I'm hearing the whistles. We're getting the cars fired up here. Marshals are giving everybody the thumbs up here across the front of the grid. So let's pick up. Let's see. Who do we want to follow first here? We'll go with Dave Sanders. He will be following Charlie Abel out on to the racetrack. And again, we have a moment as they're going to start to pull out now. So let's take a look one more time here at the starting grid for today's race. Starting on the pole will be Middletown, Maryland's Charlie Abel, and lining up his outside will be the 73 of Malvern, Pennsylvania's David Sanders. Row number 2 will have West Palm Beach, Florida's Ken Mantovani alongside of Tampa, Florida's Cecil Stevens in car number 17. Third row of the grid, Olathe, Kansas, Larry Brady in the 58 alongside the 53 of Tampa, Florida's Frank Reinhardt. Fourth row, David Clemens out of Roanoke, Virginia alongside of Jeff Pascal and from Aston, Pennsylvania in car number 63. Final row of the grid will be the number 9 of James Davidson out of West Melbourne, Florida. And would have been third on the grid, would have been Marino Reyes. But unfortunately, as we talked about, Marino grenading an engine yesterday. So he will not be on the starting grid for today's race. I don't know if he's left the racetrack yet. David Weiss checking in. Sad for my main man, Marino Reyes. Yeah, that's, you know what? That's one of those, you just feel bad for the guys. It's so much work, time, and effort goes into these race cars, and it's just a lot to kind of have that, I mean, literally go up in smoke here. I think, at least for a moment here, I think we can go on board with Charlie Abel. But you can see there, it gets a little wonky, a little shaky following, I believe that is a BMW safety car. We'll go on board also here with Frank Reinhardt. Get a good listen to that engine.
Yeah, shout out to James Davidson, who's actually racing today. His company, One More Time Adventures, out of Melbourne, Florida. He's been putting together Spec Corvette builds left and right, and one of the reasons why the Florida region has so much success is the availability of cars. And I could tell you every couple weeks this guy's ordering a roll cage from us and a pallet full of parts just to get these builds going. So he's actually races the cars, puts them together, and goes out and drove 15 hours to Virginia to go race VIR. So shout out to James Davidson and your company. Really appreciate all the work you're doing, and we know you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, so we appreciate that.
Yes,
He's the real MVP.
I will second that one. Field is still single file behind the safety car at this point. They will start to get doubled up here. Kind of as you run up the hill here, James, so much power goes into this moment. You come out of Oak Tree back there. Here it's slow and weaving, and you're kind of, you're trying to get the tires warmed up and stuff. Your first time through there at full throttle, the back end wants to step out. The car is just a monster handful.
Looking at the grid here, so we got Abel up front, and is it Mantovani in P2? I thought it was Dave Sanders, but I see a yellow car in third. Unless I'm not seeing the full grid here.
Let's see. Well, actually, we are on board with Ken Mantovani right now, so that may be...
Oh, okay, that's Mantovani. Got it.
Yeah. Yep, so that's Ken Mantovani in the third position. So Charlie Abel, Dave Sanders on row 1, Mantovani and Stevens on row 2, Brady and Reinhardt row 3, Clemens and Pascal row 4, Davidson all alone on row number 5. And now they're going to start to get doubled up here. Let's go on board with Cecil Stevens. Whole lot to look at here as we get rolling. You can see the rest of the Spec Corvettes all doubled up behind them. They're doubled up out front as well. Pace car is in.
Let's see what Mantovani
Getting ready to roll.
Look at these guys.
Oh, they're so well behaved to the start. Waiting on green, waiting on green. There it is. Green's in the air. We're underway here at VIR.
My heart
Well,
is just
no
pumping
three
for
wide
these
this
guys
time.
watching them. Clean start.
Oh.
Oh!
Wow. So tight.
Wide anyways.
On board now with Ken Mantovani. Top 3. And I'm seeing wipers. Oh, huge slide.
Oh my goodness. Oh, he's still sideways.
Is it raining right now? It must be raining.
It's gotta be. David Sanders is gonna. He doesn't have to worry about changing his tires, but he's gonna have to worry about changing something after that big slide.
Looks like Charlie Abel's starting to check out a bit here after that big slide from Dave Sanders here. So he's got a clear track ahead of him, but Dave's got a ton of experience, and these guys are really fast. So they're within tenths of each other lap time wise. So it's just a blink of an eye of a mistake that Charlie has to make, and Dave's going to be right there. And look at him soaking it up already, coming back in there.
Yeah, they're down to just a couple of car lengths.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might have to take a couple corners to recenter himself, but you only need like one corner, and he's already back up on it like nothing happened.
Great view here from Dave Sanders' car with the Sentinel system, which I have in my car also, which is the easy button for live streaming. Does a great job, but you can see just the clear. Oh, he goes in deep. He's right there. Great view from the Sentinel here. Really clear picture.
Yeah. If Charlie doesn't know he's there and looking, he does now. He is sending the message.
And Charlie's wheeling that car. You can see some counter steering coming out of there. Unbelievable. These guys are moving. There's still water on the track. You can see it. Marino Reyes says, wish I was out there with you guys.
What a send!
Whoa.
Oh, huge send by Dave Sanders. What a move.
That was a bit of a slide job. Oh, Charlie's looking again. Oh, they're side by side.
Oh, they may have touched.
I think they did.
I'm watching out the back of Dave Sanders' car as much as I'm kind of watching out the front of Charlie's here.
Yeah, if you watch out of Charlie's too long, you might have a seizure.
Yes, that's what we see out of Charlie Abel's car. So we won't be spending a ton of time on that one.
Wow, Dave Sanders takes the lead of this race here. He was at Phoenix Performance, and they took a picture of it, and I jokingly took that or framed that picture as, you know, advice from the Phoenix guys. And number one, don't lose, and he is taking that advice. But Charlie is not far off his tail. I can tell you that right now. These two, they battle it all the time. What a move by Dave, but Charlie is not far off.
They've got a huge exit off of Oak Tree. Like, he gapped him by at least the car length. Here comes the draft, though.
And this is the area where the engine blew for Marino yesterday. I wasn't quite sure where it happened.
Yeah, it was basically right out of Oak Tree as you come up through that left, right, left, and start up the hill. About one of the fastest parts of the racetrack.
Yeah, if you ask me, that's like the worst place you want that to happen.
So I'm looking at Larry Brady's in-car here. I don't know if he's got water all over the windshield, or I can't tell exactly what's going on. It looks pretty wet. He may not have wipers, or he's got power steering fluid coming out of the vents.
Yeah, it looks like to me, he just needs to take a squeegee to it.
It looks like water because it's moving pretty quick, but he's tailing somebody in a red C5.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Sideways.
Oh,
Yeah, if we can get it, can we get into Larry's car? There we go.
Yeah, the battle for the lead is incredible. We also got a nice scrap here in the midfield. Although, as we say that, they're already... Oh, Charlie's looking to send it again.
It must be raining. Or raining on certain parts of the track here because Larry's windshield is continuously wet. And you're seeing the droplets run up, but they continue to go. So there must be some water going on in this track somewhere.
Yeah, I would tend to think so. We saw a little bit of the wipers earlier, which I thought was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, we go back to Charlie in car right now. He was all over the tail of Dave Sanders, so these guys are still fighting it out. Charlie trying to defend his title yesterday, got the win yesterday for race number 1 on Saturday, and he's trying to continue and defend his title for today, but Dave with that killer move is already out front, but he is not far off. But you can see here Charlie is right on his tail, and he's going to get him in the braking zone here and just catch up a bit. See, he pulls in a little bit. Charlie, we need to get you a Sentinel system to get these spectacular views, because you've got a great view of Dave's bumper right now, and we wish we could see it a lot better than the iPhone mount. So.
Oh man, here the car's just sliding around too. Big slide there out of Charlie Abel. Not only are they pushing, you can hear the car kind of bottoming out, and a lot of action on the suspension of these cars and those Penske shocks.
Yeah, Charlie actually is one of the ones that run just the factory leaf springs. So something's going on with, I believe that's Larry Brady. Larry Brady looks like he's pulled into the pit. Now Dave Sanders has got some traffic. That's going to be interesting.
That caused a whole lot of time loss for David. Charlie's already back on him, and he was like almost like the entirety of the snake behind, and already he's back on it.
Yeah, we're working on getting the timing up top. But if we'll pull the tower back down, you can see 3 Spec Corvettes, all nose to tail here. That's Dave Sanders, Charlie Abel, and Ken Mantovani. All basically nose to tail. Ken losing a little bit of time behind the old NASCAR stock car that is flat sideways everywhere around this place.
He needs to let Mantovani go. That stock car's racing himself. He's got no competitors out here. He needs a lift. There he goes. Lets him by.
But that's still a ton of time. You see how far back Ken is now.
There was some stuff kicked up from the rear of David's car. I don't know if it was smoke or water spray. Oh, there's send. Oh, he sends it.
Wow, what a send by Charlie Abel.
My goodness, there was barely a car width, if that.
Go back on board here with Dave Sanders. Unfortunately, the mics aren't working. Oh, huge slide for Charlie.
Whoa.
Oh. Good Lord, all over the curbs and everything else, too. Dave Weiss is checking in. Charlie's car view brought to you by Dramamine. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Wow.
If you didn't think they were giving it their all, you know now.
Oh, this is full beans that these guys are going here.
Whoa. A little bit of a wiggle.
Man, a little bit of a wiggle for Charlie as well.
So let's check. Can we check into Cecil Stevens' Sentinel camera? It looks like he's picking up some steam to right behind, I think, Frank Reinhardt. I believe that is Frank. Uncle Frank in front of him. But Cecil Stevens, the Florida director, who's grown this series down there from one car to nearly 12 or 13 cars, with a ton getting built right now by James Davidson shop. So he's out there racing these cars and having a good time with them. See under the braking zone here.
We're only 10 minutes into this thing too. 10 laps, 10 minutes, or 9 laps to go. Let's go back to Dave Sanders' view here. Is these side by side with Charlie Abel?
Wow. There we go, guys. That's an amazing view right here.
Oh, such a wiggle from Charlie. Oh my goodness, that's tight.
Incredible racing, these guys. Incredible to watch this. These Nankangs are holding on for dear life, and Dave Sanders is loving every second of that. Every second of it. I think he's gonna get a
we're holding on for dear life just watching it all.
Yeah, we've got trouble for Cecil Stevens. We're going to pop off of this in a second. Cecil Stevens is parked on the side of the racetrack.
Well, his engine's still running, so that's good news. Something else is going on.
Oh, and I think we lost the feed from Dave.
Well, let's see. Let's reset it here. Although that would be a camera issue on Dave's car, but Charlie Abel holding on to the race lead. Slide back a little bit here. Let's pick up this battle. Going on board with... Oh, it's Frank Reinhardt's off the racetrack. Oh, there's got to be water coming out of the sky here a little bit. An aqueous aerial discharge, if you will. As Frank Reinhardt is off the racing surface, you can maybe see a little bit of it there on the windshield.
This is probably, if this is what's happening with the rain, you know, it's spitting in certain tracks or certain parts of the tracks than others. I've been through that at Willow Springs, where going into turn 8, you're not quite sure the next lap if you're going to go 130 into wet or 130 into dry in the middle of a turn. And I think this is what these guys are facing, because there's just seems to be, you know, moments of wetness and lots of moments of dry. So that's quite a challenge for these guys coming around a turn, not quite sure what to expect.
To me.
Yeah. Yeah, Cecil Stevens is in the paddock area. He is done for the day.
Unfortunate. I wonder what happened there, because it's driving under its own power. Unless he developed some kind of a issue internally that we just can't tell, and he just decided to park it like a vibration or something like that, and I would certainly do that, or some kind of a handling issue that a catastrophic handling issue. But it looks like it's under its own power and turning, so interested to see what actually happens there.
Yeah, Cecil getting unhooked from his machine. Larry Brady out of his car as well. It's going to leave us with 7 cars on the racetrack right now. Charlie Abel and Dave Sanders separated by 0.2 of a second. And unfortunately, it looks like the cameras have absolutely, well, taken the you-know-what on Dave Sanders' car.
And that is a shame, because the views we were getting.
Absolutely crazy here. Frank Reinhardt going out under the bridge. That's a spot where you will sometimes lose connectivity. There we go. Yeah, we're kind of peeking back in and out, as now following along with Ken Manavani. But he's going to be the big beneficiary of some of these issues. That car now running in the 3rd position. Last time by the start-finish line. Oh, wow, leaders. Huge move. Whoa. Hold up.
Yeah, was that Dave?
I think that's what something just happened there.
Dave Sanders just came around Charlie Abel, and I believe that may have been coming around the car of Dave Clemens.
He
It was
saw
either
an
Clemens or
opportunity and
Davidson.
He took it.
But a
That was
huge
gnarly to watch.
move.
And not only that, he is pulling away. Look at the gap he already has.
Oh, man. Those Nankangs are begging for mercy now.
They've got to be a little bit warm at this point. We are how many minutes in? 25?
We're only 15 minutes into this race. There's
Oh, wow.
still 20 minutes left to go, or 7 laps. At the rate they're going, this is going to be a lap-counted race, not a timed race.
It's funny, some of the comments. Eric says, I told Charlie 10 times to fix that camera. That would have been nice. Yeah, I wish I would have been able to get a hold of him this morning and say, hey, use your forward-facing camera because you get a lot more stability out of the iPhone when you do that. So for the viewers watching right now, we are using a combination of the Sentinel system, which is great, and also the just using your iPhone. So one of the things you can do racing with Spec Corvette is that you can get an iPhone mount and live stream from your car at no cost to you. So pretty cool little feature. Sometimes, depending on the mount, the picture isn't as good as it can be. So some stability would help with that. But you're looking at like out of Frank Reinhardt's car. That's an iPhone mount. That's like firmly mounted and no vibration there. So you can see it's a pretty good view.
Well, yeah, and let's speak a little bit to this. The entire broadcast and this production is happening remotely. I'm outside of Philadelphia. John is somewhere in Southern California. James is lost somewhere in the middle of Ohio, and we're calling a race from Virginia. There is so
The
much
beauty of technology.
tech flying around in this place. And it's really difficult to call a race like this because we can't see what's actually going on. I see a little bit of smoke out the front of Ken Mantovani's car. Looks like that may have been a local yellow. But now on board with Frank Reinhardt, he's trying to chase down Jeff Pascal for the 5th position. And this is big because
Jeff's doing a great job.
If I
keeping them out
remember,
front, that's for sure.
If I remember correctly, this is a double points race for these guys as well.
Yes, this is the championship. So I'm not sure how Cecil has it structured, but this very well may be. So Jeff Pascali from the Northeast area is doing a great job. Look at the flames coming out of that thing. Just ripping on that car in front of Uncle Frank here, having a good time. So these guys are having a lot of fun in these cars and at a legendary racetrack with these Corvettes.
And it's interesting, the contrast in styles. Charlie Abel is absolutely throwing the car all over the place. Dave Sanders, crazy aggressive into the corners. Frank Reinhardt making close lap times and just not pushing the car as psychotically hard. Ken Mantovani, here's another one. Let's take a look here out the front of Ken's car because I saw a little bit more smoke from somebody else just up ahead. Ken Mantovani trying to chase down Charlie Abel. But I think there may be an issue with the 39, at least a little bit. Dave Sanders, last time by the start-finish line, 4 3/4 second lead over Charlie Abel. Ken Mantovani has cut it down to just 3.8 seconds the last time by. The gaps as they cross the line now, 5.6 seconds between Sanders and Abel, and the gap between Abel and Mantovani is down to 2.7 seconds. In fact, we can see Charlie out the front of Ken Mantovani's car now.
I wonder what is happening going on with Charlie's car for being, P1 position. It looks like he's just limping it along right here. Maybe he's got a clutch or a transmission issue. Maybe he's stuck in gear or just can't shift real well. Something's going on with that car. I know Charlie, he would not be giving up positions that easily.
Such a shame, too, because that was the battle to end all battles we were watching.
Yeah, it sure was.
Oh, and are they?
that Dave?
Wait, is that
Dave?
was that Dave Sanders?
Yeah. I think it was. What in the world is happening?
Well, we'll see next time they cross the start-finish line. But here's Ken Mantovani all over the back end of Charlie Abel now.
Now we have another
Is
race.
Ken gonna win this race?
Unbelievable. What is going on? Was that Dave Sanders?
I think it was because Cecil
Stevens.
Cecil was the only other yellow car, I think.
Wow. Now things have turned over another rock here. Unbelievable.
What is happening
Yes.
in Virginia, Chris Graham?
Yeah, Cecil is parked in the garage area in the only other yellow car that was on the grid.
But it looks like Charlie is ripping this thing. So maybe he overheated or something. He had to let off, but he's hauling ass right now. Mantovani is no slouch.
Well, let's see. Okay, it was not Dave Sanders. Dave Sanders is now 8.7 seconds ahead of Charlie Abel. The car did just trip the timing line at the start-finish line. So Dave Sanders is still your race leader. Charlie Abel running second, but Ken Mantovani was 1.1 seconds back. Dave Clemens holding on to the fourth position. At the rate that some of these cars are having issues, Dave Clemens could find himself up here on the podium potentially, unless he was the car that had the issue. Dave Clemens is not a car that we have a camera in today.
I don't believe his car is yellow. I believe his car is white. But that was a yellow car for sure.
Okay. Well, let's see. Dave Clemens crossed the line 37 seconds behind the race leader. Jeff Pascal, 3/10 behind. A great battle for fourth and fifth. And unfortunately, we don't have any cameras in those cars.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm watching the race now between Mantovani and Charlie. I'm trying to make sense of exactly what happened. It's almost like Charlie was overheating or something, was giving it a cool down lap, and then he looked behind him, saw Mantovani, and said, "Okay, I'm going to floor it again," and now he's taking off.
Yeah, he's starting to check out a little bit, and let's move over here. We'll pick up the onboard with Frank Reinhardt, who is catching James Davidson. It was 0.9 of a second last time by the start-finish line. I'm going to call that 3, maybe 2.5 car lengths separating those two. And this is the battle for position number 6.
You can see how dead even these cars are with power. There's just nobody's pulling from anybody under power.
Well, and you talked about it a little bit yesterday, John. The fact that it's not just a horsepower measurement, but now it's horsepower at a torque measurement, which is going to become the standard. Because guys were doing some things to trick out the torque side of things and try to find a performance advantage.
Yeah, we collected so many dyno charts, and there's an average curve that we found, and there's some outliers there. So, there's things that we got to make sure that we crack down on and make sure that we have equal competition, because these guys, a lot of people travel really far to try to win a race, and have fun. And it's not fun when you have no chance to win, right? So we want to take every opportunity to tighten the rules as we go here, because the rule set's an ever evolving document. It's never set in stone, and as we learn and find new things, we improve it. So that's just going to be one of them.
Position change for fourth. Jeff Pascal coming around David Clemens. Those cars still separated by only 0.3, and it's going to be Davidson and Reinhardt over the line now. This time, these guys separated by 0.4 seconds. Big send by Reinhardt. Oh, and he's off the racetrack.
Whoa!
And Reinhardt.
Too much of a send.
Wait, Davidson's off too. Reinhardt goes for the spin.
They're all on the fence. Oh!
Yeah.
And this is what we talked about, the wet grass. It's, the surface is dry, but the second you put two off, and look at this thing, he's having a hard time getting it even straightened out because it's so wet on the grass.
and getting it straightened out, and then the tires have picked up some water and everything else that now you almost have to kind of take it easy for a lap or so and just make sure the car's in good shape underneath you.
Just like driving on ice cream.
That was wild. Looks like Frank's kind of taking it easy here. He's trying to see what happens when it turns the car and cleaning the tires off a bit. But yeah, just as you said, the tires are soaked. The car looks loose. It just looks a little loose.
So now going back on board here with Ken Mantovani running in position number 3 as we are down to 2 circuits remaining here at Virginia International Raceway. Dave Sanders has his lead shrinking. Charlie Abel has cut it down to 6.2 seconds. Ken Mantovani now 4.2 seconds back of Abel in that fight for the second position. Jeff Pascal waiting for him to cross the line. He's still another 15 seconds or so away from crossing the line. Then it'll be Clemens, Davidson, and Reinhardt. Diesel Stevens, Larry Brady already out of this race. Fast lap right now belongs to Charlie Abel at a 2:05. Actually, hold on. Let me correct that. 2:04.874. These guys are flying around this place.
You know, this is kind of makes me feel like an endurance race.
You know what? To that point, James, and John, maybe you can speak to this. This kind of is an endurance race for the Spec Corvette series. 35 minutes is a long time to be running one of these race cars.
Yeah, it absolutely is. That's pretty much the highest amount of time that we would do a race under normal non-endurance racing. Generally, they're 25, 30, 35 minutes, 35 being obviously the longest race here. And we've done endurance races in the Corvette when we first started doing Spec Corvette. And, you know, they're fun. It takes a lot of prep, teamwork and stuff like that. But for me personally, I like the sprint races. I like 20, 25 minutes. I start to get pretty tired around 25 minutes. And especially when if I'm in a good position, I want it to end sooner than later.
And I will say, not everything has to be a Daytona 24 or a Sebring 12-hour to be a good sports car race. The sprints can be as much fun because the drivers go into it knowing my equipment has to last this long. I have to make sure it gets to the end, but I don't have a whole lot of time to screw around. You want to get to the front, you better start from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, when we did sprints, we would do a 15-minute super sprint and then do a regroup right on the track, stop the cars, and do a frog hop. Rear goes to the front and invert the grid. Those were some of the best races that we've done. But you've only got 4 laps, really, to get from the back to the front if you're one of the leaders. And I can tell you that those were the races that we had the most carnage. And once we stopped doing that, we've had pretty clean races. So, you know, it's a balance, and depending on who's on track and whatnot, to make those types of decisions. We may bring the inverted grid back, but it's one of those things where you have to be really careful about it because, again, you've got 4 laps to get it done. So when you have an opportunity, or when you don't have an opportunity, you take the opportunity, and that can become a hairy situation sometimes.
That's exactly it. As we are down to 1 lap to go here at VIR. Dave Sanders holding a 6.3 second lead over Charlie Abel. The gap to Ken Mantovani is up to 5.8 seconds. This is one of those where Dave Sanders, Charlie Abel just need to cruise your way home here.
Yeah, Dave just checked out, and then now Charlie, after whatever he had going on, checked out also.
And there it is, checkered flag in the air. Dave Sanders picks up the win here at VIR. Charlie Abel comes home in the second position. Third will belong to Ken Mantovani. And then we got to wait about 50 seconds or so to get back to David Clemens running in the 4th position.
That's a great finish. If Dave Clemens ends up in fourth, that'd be a great finish for him, and being brand new to Spec Corvette, running in an ex Phoenix car. So
Go on board here with Charlie Abel, our runner-up finisher, at least until I start to get a little bit nauseous, but get you a good look at David Sanders, our race winner. Charlie going to pull up alongside, give him the wave here. Absolutely fantastic race here out of the Spec Corvettes. I did not, going into this race, I did not see Dave Sanders, Charlie Abel, and Ken Mantovani separated by as much as they were. It really goes to show how good these guys were, and just quite frankly, the ridiculous pace that Dave Sanders had under that 73 machine.
Yeah.
And they weren't really separated for that long. It was basically for almost the entirety of the race, we had them going all out for the win.
I keep thinking I see debris on the side of Charlie Abel's car. It's just like a nick out of the windshield is what we're seeing. But we'll go back over to Ken Mantovani's view here as the field will make their way back to pit lane. And, man, John, as always, the Spec Corvettes put on a great show. The racing is really intense. And I don't know what more you could ask for out of what you would basically call a gentleman's racing series.
absolutely, and it's cost effective. You're racing America's sports car, and your brothers, your sisters, and your neighbors are all doing it. So I think we got a great thing going on here, great camaraderie, and we're looking forward to the next few years in Spec Corvette racing and becoming a national series with either SEC or NASA, and keep pushing it from there.
That's a great point. In fact, out of the Southeast and in the Florida region, it is its own separate category of car now. Great work by Cecil and everybody that's down there in the Florida region making these things happen. But with that, I think it's about time for us to get the heck off the air here and quit yapping in your ears. One more time, let's give you the field rundown. Dave Sanders over Charlie Abel, Ken Mantovani, Dave Clemens, and Jeff Pascal, the top five. 6 through 10, Frank Reinhardt, James Davidson, Cecil Stevens, and Larry Brady back anyway through the 9th position. But with that, we're going to get the heck on out of here. A fantastic show. Got to thank John Wynn and James Watson for coming to hang out with us. And also need to say a big thank you to everybody that makes today's broadcast of the Spec Corvette series on the National Racing Network possible, including G-Stream, Improved Racing, Penske Racing Shocks, Sparco, TPS Motorsports, Track Spec, Turn 1, Willwood Brakes, and the title presenting sponsor of the Spec Corvette series, Nankang Motorsport Tires. Thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it. And with that, for John Wynn, James Watson, and everybody else here at the National Racing Network that helps us get these shows on the air, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.